Educational software and media. What exactly does it mean? Well, Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines education as the action or process of educating or of being educated, also a stage of such a process. Dictionary.com defines software as the programs used to direct the operation of a computer, as well as documentation giving instructions on how to use them. Finally, media is defined by oxforddictionary.com as the main means of mass communication, broadcasting, publishing, and the internet, regarded collectively. So we are looking at online programs or the instructions for how to use them in the process of educating someone and the education of others through mass means via the internet, television, or other forms of publications. We will focus on media and technology from the 20th century going forward in the interest of time. As different technologies and mediums began to emerge and culture started shifting with the new production of media and technology, different perspectives were apparent. With the invention of the television around the 19th century and into the beginning of the 20th, there were thoughts associated with the transformative value of this technology. Specifically, Thomas Edison in 1922 was quoted as saying, "The motion picture is destined to revolutionize our educational system and, in a few years, it will supplant largely, if not entirely, the use of textbooks." In 1929 also was a key time for radio broadcasting groups to be prevalent in schools and assist in educating students. When teachers worked together to develop not-for-profit schools of air, broadcasting educational programming, although this primarily took place in the United States. Alas, this trend did not last with the conception of commercial radio, a structure which is still adhered to today. Educational software seems to have originated in approximately the 1940s, at which point flight simulators were developed and used to train pilots. Prior to 1970, a company now known as Pearson Educational Technologies developed and began marketing different software to schools. Initially, these efforts were costly and oftentimes were too expensive for the institutions to afford. It wasn't until 1950s that television really made a bid in the classroom as an educational tool. Some touted its educational promise. However, while companies worked to produce material for profit, many found the programs were poorly put together and had little to no educational value. These practices were reevaluated and there were measures put into place to develop educational shows that were of good quality. Think of stations such as PBS and CBC. These efforts existed well into the 90s and can still be evidenced today. Between 1970 and 1980 is when we saw the next big development in educational software, as that was when personal computers entered into the equation. This development is what opened the door for educational software companies to emerge. It also marked the shift to technology and software being accessible in the personal sphere. In the 90s, we saw an explosion of new software emerging. The development of CD-ROMs lent another means of reaching schools and homes with more information in a more accessible way. We now had office tools with Windows and a relatively inexpensive information source with Encarta and America Online entering our homes, to name a few. While there are varying accounts of when the internet was invented, the World Wide Web came to be in around the 1980s, and it started to become a household product by around 1995. This new platform was quick to garner popularity in educational fronts. As the internet continues to develop and evolve, there is evidence of more web-based platforms which educators are able to access on the web, generally with a few clicks. Some of the software available currently is free to users, while others have costs associated with them. This is when we see the development and use of blogs, platforms such as Google Classroom, e-portfolios such as Seesaw, and countless others emerge. Educators and institutions continue to learn and grow with the development of new software and technology while trying to find the appropriate educational tools to fit the lesson.